out. Apparently, my guys in North Carolina are listening.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
Welcome, guys, in North Carolina. You could definitely give them a shout out.
yeah.
Hey, anybody know if Kevin and or John are going to make it tonight?
John mentioned something in the group chat that he might not be able to. I haven't
Okay.
heard from Kevin.
No worries.
Mr. Busy.
No worries.
Yeah.
That's funny. I didn't realize, but the picture I had up for the last couple of weeks was from the Saskatoon Wildlife Federation Silhouette Range, and the competitor was shooting a Savage B-22 precision rifle, which is cool considering we announced Savage Arms coming on as a sponsor for 2021. So yeah, that's pretty good. So I was supposed to meet with them a couple of weeks ago. I was supposed to stop by on the way to the East Elgin match.
Oh yeah,
the X22. Yeah, we were supposed to sit down and chat about life and all those issues that people have been having. I mean, it seems to be a quick fix, but hopefully we
the fix is a little different from people to people. I mean, I had a mild case of it where just switching ammo solved the problem.
Yeah.
Apparently, it was just a question of going to the top shelf, and then life was good.
Yeah. And most people, when they're shooting 10-22, maybe or 22s, they don't think about it. But when you're on the clock, right, and you're using it as at a match, it becomes super frustrating.
Yeah, I don't know. You probably don't remember, but my first experience with a maple seed was basically with a knife next to the popping the rounds every time. That was a disaster. Very frustrating.
Yeah, and you're not the only guy.
Yeah,
I remember Ryan.
Oh,
Ryan Stacy in where were we? Nicollet Valley. He had a knife with him to clear the cases, spent cases.
Funny thing is that then I showed up at my second event, and Kelly was the line boss.
Yeah.
And she said, "Are you seriously going to run a maple seed with Ely Club?" I said, "Yes, ma'am."
Yeah. I mean, I've seen. Yeah, I mean, guys shoot 10x. I've seen guys shoot 10x at maple seed, but
that's a high round count day.
Well, you think about if you're going to shoot 223, it's going to be the same cost,
of course,
right? Or a PCC. So, yeah, season's almost here. Can't wait.
Speaking of knives and extraction issues, someone in my squad at the last ORPS was having extraction issues every 2 rounds. So he actually had a knife beside him during the stages and would just pop him up.
Wow. And if you're experienced, you can still make it through the stage.
Exactly, yeah. And Thomas actually offered him his rifle because he wasn't shooting the morning squad, but he just wanted to use his own.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It just messes up your mental management, though. That's the only the only thing. So.
Maybe I should start by apologizing to the many new shooters that we had at that match, but I had to pick one. So I picked better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And speaking about extraction issues and stuff, I don't know if it's common to other CZ457 MTRs, but whenever I used either ALI or CCI, I get extraction issues.
Really?
And I don't with the SK rifle. Well, any SK I didn't have issues when I tried them.
What rifle are you using, Ben?
I have the MTR.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That's surprising. The MTR seems to eat whatever we throw at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. With ALI, I had extraction issues with, in the middle of the mags, but with the CCI standard velocity, which I bought for practice, I get extraction issues every 2 mags at the last round.
Okay.
Injection or extraction?
So it's 5 seconds too. We're gonna play the video. So
going live very soon.
5 seconds. Yeah, should be good. I can't believe it's halfway through April already.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. See you on the other side, guys. Hey, shooters. It's the Rimfire Nation Podcast, episode 9. Tonight, we chat about stage planning and building a solid shooting position, no matter what barricade is thrown at you. So joining us tonight is special guest star Benjamin, who shot his first ORPS 2 weeks ago in Stittsville. Is that right?
Yep.
Was it only 2 weeks?
2 or 3 weeks ago, yeah.
2 to 3 weeks. They're all blending into all of them. So we'll get to that in a moment. But first, we want to thank our proud sponsor, Tesro.ca, for their continued support of the podcast. And new products at Tesro. Let's take a look at the new products. So what we have, and I actually ended up buying one of these new products, is the Victorinox Hunter Pro Alox, which I like. Let me get to, where's that? Where's my window?
We see it.
We can see
I
it.
don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Oh, there it is. There it is. I got to go down. So this is what I bought. It's on sale. So the regular price was like $144. Special price $115.99. It's just a nice everyday carry that's not too scary for people. So when Matt whips out his 7-inch folder and flicks it out with spring assist and cuts open a letter with it, people don't panic and call the police. But for those that are also interested, I don't know how many of you know, but Tesla also sells reloading components like Hornady bullets. So take a look. The prices are pretty decent. I bought powder and primers from them, and now I'm going to stock up on 223 for our Project Maple Seed known distance events. And if you don't know what that is, stay tuned. We'll be providing more details around the known distance events shortly. So that is just arrived at Tesro.ca. Perfect. Awesome. If you're interested in the past episode, so we're at episode 9. So there are 8 episodes prior to this one available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and on the Canadian Rimfire Precision Series YouTube channel. And again, don't forget to like and subscribe and spread the word for those folks that are just getting into the sport. All of our previous episodes have been really talking around all the different pieces of information you need describing the events, how to get started, what do you need, we chat a bit about gear. And tonight is no different. We're going to be talking about approaching a stage. So we've got a distinguished panel of guests joining us tonight. We got Thomas and Matt. We also have Benjamin Pinel, who, as we said before, is brand new to the sport. He's got one, I guess technically it's 2 matches under your belt now, Benjamin?
Yeah, technically, yeah. the morning and the afternoon one.
There you go. You
back to back.
Double-headered it. That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the sport.
Thank you.
And Thomas is going to be taking point tonight. He's going to walk us through a variety or a plethora, a cornucopia, a varied assortment of different typical barricades you'd see at an ORPS or CRPS event. And we're going to talk about the different approaches. So, yes. Thomas, can I turn it over to you now?
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope very much that everyone who's chatting in will contribute, because I think there's so many ways to approach a stage, a barricade, prop. So, but before we go there, we at Stittsville, we were quite lucky at our last match to have I forget, I wanted to count them and I forgot, but I would say at least 4 or 5 new shooters that came out and shot their first matches. But I wanted to bring one of them on. I chose Benjamin because you contacted me basically a few days after Christmas. So I actually had the chance of following through our chats and the question that you sent me. Basically your evolution from decision to match 1 and 2, even watch you shoot a little bit on match number 2. So basically, thank you for coming and accepting to talk with us this evening. My first question is, how did you hear about us? How did you decide that you wanted to do PRS and eventually landed in Rimfire PRS?
All right. Well, I first started shooting when I was young, and then when I got the budget to buy my first rifle, I bought a 308. I figured that it was expensive to shoot, so I wanted a 22 as well. And I learned about PRS from YouTube, watching impact shooting, and so then I started to search for PRS groups on Facebook, and after a while, I couldn't really find. Well, I found some, but they were not really exhaustive on PRS and stuff in Canada. And then I somehow stumbled on the CRPS group. When I joined, I really liked how the community was doing. Whenever I asked a question, I even if it was a simple question, someone answered, and no one made jokes about the fact that it had been asked a thousand times before, which I feel like we're pretty lucky to have this in this group, because we don't get this elsewhere often. And yeah, I like everything that comes with the group, because it's just fun talking to people and getting to know people that like the sport as well, and that pushed me to try and do this sport competitively. So we'll see how it goes from there. But yeah,
I think you're going to do very well, and that echoes what we've heard from so many people, is that we've got a nice group of very inclusive people. I don't want to say guys. We've got guys, gals, kids, older. The wisdom is there, right, Rick? And anyway, so that's very interesting. So at some point you found us through Facebook, I guess. That's interesting. Matt found us through NRL 22, which obviously generates a little bit of buzz online. And I would say that in the past year or so, some of Matt's video have actually brought us some shooters. So it's interesting to see how the group is converging together. So that's very nice. And so you had purchased the 308, or you were just considering?
No, I had it. I bought my first rifle, the 308, in October of 2020.
Okay.
I figured I couldn't do a lot of sports outside with COVID.
Right.
So I got into this, and then when I wanted to start a competition and stuff and get ready for my first ORPS match, then I started looking at the other 22 rifles, and then I hesitated between the Tika and the CZ457 MTR. And when I found a sale on the MTR, I jumped on it.
Yep.
And I went from there.
I remember you mentioning this. Welcome on board, John. John, meet Benjamin.
Hello.
No worries.
Nice to meet you.
All right, very good. You guys want to add anything to? No. All right. So
what scope and what ammo are you using?
I did a bunch of ammo tests with my CZ. I tested overall 10 brands, and I didn't really have access to a 200-yard range at the time when I did, so I tried 50 yards and 100 yards, because I learned read somewhere that the groups didn't matter much at 50 yard. You had to have good groups at 200. So I did my best and went with the longest I could have. And then I figured the SK rifle match was the best one for the winter, because I know 22 LR is pretty temperature sensitive. So I'll do some more testing soon, because it's hotter now. But and I'm practicing with CCI, standard velocity.
Nice.
And for a scope, I have the Diamondback Tactical 416, but I'm thinking in buying the Strike Eagle after watching a lot of reviews on it, including Matt's review. I figured it. Scope. Yeah, I figured it's the best for money wise, and being a student, I don't have 5,000 to drop on a rifle scope.
It's a worthy upgrade. The Strike Eagle.
It's a worthy upgrade. It's probably one of the most dramatic upgrades you can make. Like the money jump isn't huge, but what you get compared to others that you'd buy, because I mean it's a big meaty. I love the big fat turrets. It's a solid feel. You feel like you're getting something. So good, awesome. Now, did you buy any bags or anything? Like what was your?
I bought a used bag. The what's it called? The most popular one I have.
Game Changer.
Yeah, the Game Changer, the sticky one.
Nice.
And I think it's the medium size. But I found that it was for prone shooting and stuff. It was too big, so I made my own bags. Ended up making some bags. So I'm using all of them during stages, depending on what position we're in or practicing. Yeah,
it's a classic evolution, right? At some point, we all have an array of bags, and slowly we converge towards the favorite. Yeah.
That's it. No, so after your first match, are you changing anything in your gear at all, or you?
I think I will try the pump pillow thingy. I don't have I have a tripod, but it's a bit wobbly, so I might get that as well at some point. And I want the ACC chassis probably for my CZ because I have this cheek riser that is not quite right for my height. I have a really small head, and even with the lowest rings, I need to raise my head. And the length of pull is a bit too small, as I have a tendency to get really close to the optic naturally. So I want something that can will allow me to be more comfortable on the rifle. So I'm probably heading towards that.
Nice.
Very good.
Thanks, Ben.
So once you had your eyes locked on ORPS and we had a little chat, you started preparing for your first match. How did that go? What was your approach?
All right. Well, first I knew that practicing at a range in Quebec was a bit difficult because there's not a lot of range that has more than 200 yards. And then there's a lot of restriction. We can't really have obstacles to shoot from and stuff. So I knew I had to find a land to shoot on. So then I started looking for one. I have done a small document that can help people try to find one. And how I used it. I did it. So first I contacted the owners by finding their addresses, because lots of them are farmers and their companies and stuff. So their addresses is not the same as where the land I want to shoot from is. And I thought I would have to send 100 letters to people before finding one, and I was lucky to find one after 5. Nice. And I have a range that goes up to, according to Google Map, 400 yards for a 22 LR, and I could have access to a kilometer if I wanted to.
Nice.
And I got my rangefinder yesterday, so I can't tell you what the ranges of my targets are, except for what the GPS tells me, which is wildly inaccurate.
Right.
But I think I have targets for up to 350 yards, and I'm still in the process of building some and adding them to my my posts. I did some like T posts with that are like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I will have one small target when there's not much wind, and one large target for when there's wind. And I'll set up some KYL racks and
Nice.
a wind teacher, because at the first match I felt that it was the best way to practice and learn about wind.
Right.
Yeah.
So Ben, are you interested in becoming a CRPS official target tester?
I mean, I wouldn't mind not having to pay for targets, because
Okay, we'll talk after. We'll talk after.
Yeah.
I don't know. Most people don't know, but Ben is actually a behind the scenes CRPS staffer. He's been compiling retailer lists for us all across Canada as part of our awareness and marketing campaign. So he's been working on this for a few months. Well, he did it a few months ago,
Yeah.
but since COVID hit, we haven't been able to take advantage of it. So thank you, Ben. Welcome to the team.
Yeah,
and we'll connect. It's
Right.
cool that you live in the same city as I do.
Yeah. We're not that far.
So we can I can bring a wind teacher. I can give you a couple of things to try out for us.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That would be awesome.
So
yeah, I can.
Kudos to you, because it's so easy to say, oh, I don't have this or I don't have that. I mean, we all hear of hunters that essentially go and talk to farmers and strike a deal, help out. I saw your post on Facebook, and the presentation was super professional. It was well put together, and I'm not surprised at all that you found somebody that, your excitement communicated through this letter, and I think that anybody can pick up on that, and a professional presentation will get you a long way. So that was very cool. Now, in terms of the practice, knowing that your match was coming up, I remember that we were talking about some of the past Course of Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Did you? So obviously, I don't know at which point in this evolution you found the land, but it sounds like you didn't do a whole lot of bench testing, so to speak. You went straight to. I remember the first few photos I saw of you practicing where there were some pine trees on either side of you and a makeshift barricade. Tell us a little bit more about that.
I got the first time I used my CZ was I had 9 box of different 9 box of different ammo types. I tested them. Once I found the best one, I immediately started to try and find a range. Not a range, but a land to shoot on, because I knew that it was easy to shoot tight groups off a bench, and I knew it wasn't like that in the competitions. Sorry, and I'm a big fan of training for something more difficult than what is in the actual competition, so I can get to not have to focus on something I never done during the match. When I tried to find a place near where I live, like in the woods behind my house, but it was somewhat legal. And once I went and I heard some people were talking somewhere, so I decided to stop shooting there because I didn't want to have any trouble and no accidents. So, and then I was lucky to have found the land 1 week later, and then I started to set up. So I'm not fully set up yet, but it's coming along together rather quickly. And I practice off I think a traditional barricade. I haven't had the time to make much more, as I don't want to buy everything because budget is tight during this end of semester.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. So everything I built was made from secondhand steel at my near steel reseller or something. And
it's full. So now, the big day. you take the drive, you come and hang out with us at Stittsville for a day. You meet a whole bunch of new guys.
Yep.
Tell me what you thought about your first match and how awesome the match director was that day.
I don't know about the match director but the match in itself was a whole lot of fun. I loved it, and what I liked the most was the fact that we got to that we ever got. The first thing I found out was that we get to learn a bunch more than what we can learn at home, because even when we're at home, we can see people on YouTube and stuff, but we don't get to see the results instantly. And when you're there, people can help you. Everyone's super friendly, even if it's a competitive environment. People get to give you some advice. You get to meet a bunch of people that are into sports as well. And we can see that people love what they do, and they're there for fun, and everyone's there to either learn or help someone else. So yeah, I really loved it, and that's about it. Yeah.
Perfect. I mean, a first match is something, we're obviously not doing our best. This is it only goes up from there, and most of us aren't as lucky, or maybe not, as Matt for having it on video. I actually watched a video of his first match again for some reason not too long ago, and it was pretty funny to see Matt, who's a top tier competitor today, as a green apple who forgot to open his scope cap. And
I hate watching my old videos because it brings back so many memories. I don't want to remember.
That's awesome. All right, so the match went pretty well, as you mentioned. Well, I don't know if you mentioned it so far, but you shot in the morning and then you shot it again for the afternoon. But before we go into the difference between the two, after running your first match, what was your takeaway? Where did you say, okay, I need to work on, what is that? Fill in the blank here.
I knew I had to work on positions, what I would practice at home, and how to control my the wind. Well, I did not learn how to do it, but I learned that I had to do it. I figured a lot of people were not using the turrets, and they were using it, but they weren't changing the elevation during the match, and that was something I didn't really had practiced.
That can get borderline religious at some point. You have some guys who dial everything, like I believe John does.
Yeah.
But you've got a lot of other people who hold. I was actually at the range with Tony Norman today, and he's a holder. Matt does a lot of holding also. I was trying to remember if Kevin's a dialer.
No, he's a dialer. He's a dialer.
He's against dialing. Against holding. Yeah. That's right. So very good. That's interesting. And then you got a chance to shoot the match all over again. Was that good? Bad? Same?
It was really nice. The group was really different. The morning, there was I don't know everyone by their name, but they had they were laughing and having fun, so it was easier for me to blend in the group in the morning, and then it was a bit more serious in the afternoon, so I had an adjustment period.
That's a little bit my fault, because I want the morning guys out by 12:30, so you got to hustle.
Yeah.
But in the afternoon after that, it's all good. It's relax. Somebody's griping against the 200-yard bonus stage that I had, the wind teacher. Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, the one with the
spool.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel that the wind teacher stage is the one I learned the most on, to be honest. And to come back to your question, in the afternoon, I had a marginal increase in my hits because I had tried the stage during the morning. I used everyone else's info on how to do stages, my own experience from the morning, and I felt like a sponge, and I think that's what we should do when we're out to a match. This way, we can learn a bunch more than if we go there with the intention to win on your first match. I wasn't dead last, but I wasn't at the top either, and I even though I did not win first place. I wasn't expecting that. I had a really bunch of fun.
Awesome. Well, that's what we like to hear. That's what we throw these events every month for, and I hope that I get to be squatted with you for your first CRPS, because this just takes it another level. So finally, what would you say to someone listening that's either thinking about maybe potentially participating, who's building, or maybe who has started building their kit and they're sort of awaiting the first event they're going to go at? What recommendation would you put out there for a new shooter?
First, I'd tell the person to just go and try it. It's really fun. As I said before, you learn. Well, you just learn everything. You have to learn for all the basics and what you need to work on. It's the best practice you can get, I feel. And also, if I'm a student and on a student budget, and I can do it, I feel like everyone can do it. That's my main takeaway for other shooters.
Yeah.
Recommendation, sorry.
Very well. And in the roster of new shooters we had that month, we had a few guys show up with the classic starter package before the change of production rule, which is your B-22 Mark II Diamondback Tactical and a teachable attitude. Can I steal that from Maple Seed?
Maple Seed stole it from somebody else, so yeah, sure.
Oh, there you go. Very well. All right. Well, I feel like I'm monopolizing the Benjamin's time here, but thanks a lot for answering all my questions. I don't know if you guys have other questions for him before we move on to stage and prop review. All right.
I just want to say, man, that's awesome, the amount of effort you're putting into this. Like going to find land to test and then actively testing. I think, you're probably 5% of the community that does that. I think if you keep that up, you're definitely going to be a person to watch for in the next season or two. So,
thanks.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome. Good to see that kind of work.
When I have this thing that when I get into something, I just get into it, and I can get a little bit obsessed, which can be a good thing in this case.
I think you found a group of your peers here.
Yeah. Just look to the left, to the right, and below.
Yep.
Everyone is guilty of that, but I think
absolutely,
it's all good. Yeah, awesome.
All right, that's great. Rick, do you want to roll into the props, or do you want to add maybe a little thank you to our sponsor?
Yep, for sure. Again, Asmir and Miriam, thank you very much for supporting this podcast. You guys are amazing. I love how you guys keep expanding the assortment to take more of my money. Yeah. Actually, now I'm into the knives that they've started carrying. So
on that subject, when I saw Asmir's post about CZ parts, I think he should bring in some actual repair parts, springs, extractor, and all that good stuff. I'll send him an email.
Yeah.
All right, very well. Let's roll into the second portion of this here. I'm going to share my screen.
So what's the format, Tom?
The format will be, we are going to bring on a standard prop, and we will just sort of discuss it. Hopefully you guys can see my screen, and it's actually hiding because I can't see you guys right now.
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect. And basically the idea here is to review some of the common props. We started with the ones I have at home, which are more ORPS related, but John sent us also some photos of the props that he permanently has on his front porch, which is amazing. All right, so obviously, I think I don't know what percentage of the people that are listening right now have shot the ORPS, but we've discussed this many times before. It's a scaled down version of CRPS. It runs usually 25 to 100 yards, and the usual suspects you can expect to see are pretty much depicted right here. The chair, the ladder, the milk crates. I was missing a few. The barrel, the 5-gallon buckets, the tires, and also I wanted to do the tires, but forgot that all my tires are mounted on rims, so it would have been a little clumsy. so we skipped the tires. But I mean, at the end of the day, and I think we should come back on this later, is props are not much more than just different height and stability level. So, a chair, so let's start with the chair, what we see there. So you'll have the low or almost prone position if you're shooting underneath it. You'll have the sort of squatting, sitting if you're shooting off the seat, and the on your knees type of semi erect, I guess, from the back of the chair. So I'm just showing off here on the top left corner that my rifle is well balanced and in a neutral position. But guys, let's start there. If you're shooting off the top of the chair, the back of the chair, what's your approach? My approach here is quite simple: is get the sticky game changer to cradle and lock onto the back of the seat and get my rifle balanced. And after that point, I just sort of move it into position, get my sights on target, and just slightly bring my shoulder up to the rifle, and then a gentle squeeze of the trigger, and a good follow through is my recipe for that one.
Now, are you able to do with a knee up from that position? Also,
I probably could. So this is interesting, and I'm going to get to that in another slide. But I used to do the knee up. Obviously, the trigger hand knee. Yeah. But last summer, Rob Gordon, who I train with a lot, kind of converted me to planting my feet nice and flat and my knees down, and loading into the barricade if I can. And I find I've pretty much abandoned the knee up. I find I get a better, more stable, more balanced position, I think, because your weight is distributed evenly.
I mean, you won the production division last year, so I figure you must know what you're doing then.
Well, we'll see how well I do in open, but I mean,
because what we try to tell people to do is right now you've got, again, you're an experienced shooter, so it's different. But when you're brand new, you've got a lot of muscle supporting your body weight, right? So your quads, your thigh muscles, right? You're suspending yourself, and that could lead to muscle fatigue later on, which ends up getting that yo-yo. So that's why we always say, get your knee up and then get your elbow on your knee so that you've got bone to bone and weight being transferred to the ground through your shin bone and your foot.
Absolutely. If you're cramping and if you're uncomfortable, to me that's a lesson I learned a long time ago. I do a lot of windsurfing, and in windsurfing, if your muscle hurt, you're doing it wrong. The wind is supposed to do the work, and that's something that when you're a young boy, you're all about your muscle, and you only understand that much later on in life. But work smart, don't work hard. So,
and that's kind of a good spot for a pump pillow. Also, is just underneath that right,
absolutely,
right tricep.
Absolutely,
kind of sandwich it in. So,
Exactly.
That's how I would probably try shooting. But again, it depends on how your body is sized. I don't know if I could do it kneeling.
Yeah, the
I'd
kneeling
have to
position.
see.
Only if I had a light lunch can I do that.
Yeah.
Matt, how do you tackle the? What's your secret sauce for the seat?
It's pretty funny you ask, because just looking at your pictures, a lot of props can be set in different ways. So in your top two pictures, you can see that the chair's facing the side, and I always find that a little bit harder to shoot off the top of it, because you have to watch that your grip or your bipod isn't low enough hitting the back of the chair when you're shooting off of it like that. So getting enough height with your shooting bag over the chair, I think, is important. But if the chair's facing away or towards you, it's a lot more easy, because all you have to do is, set your bag down, right? So I mean, I use a very similar technique. I personally like to use the knee up if I can make contact, but I did a little bit of testing with this last year as well. And if I can't make contact between my elbow and my knee, I'll take the time to put my knee back down, because it's much more stable with both knees planted than having one up and not supporting anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good. And would you, or have you ever tried sort of the Arca rail benefit, where you would, let's say you're shooting from the seat, bring your bipod all the way back and try to get a bag underneath there, like we would do off of a barrel?
Yeah, so I do that on barrels quite often. On a chair, not so much, because it's so low that I have enough support in my body, whether it's like in the crouch position you're showing there, or if I'm just sitting on my butt, I can usually get some sort of rear support between my elbow and my knee or whatever. So I don't use the bipod all the way back. And actually, speaking of which, I don't actually use that as much anymore. I used to do that a lot, especially since with the Arca rail and an Atlas bipod, you can get the footprint of the rifle to be really, really small. But I actually find it's not as stable as you might think.
That's the new gadget syndrome.
Yeah, exactly.
You force it into situations that really aren't.
Yeah, and even even on top of the barrel, I used to do that almost all the time if I could, but I've found it's almost more stable now if I just use the bag, and I'm not trying to do this weird, pseudo bench shooting thing off the top of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good. Benjamin, we must have had a chair on the last match, did we?
Yeah,
No,
it was the offhand thingy.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I did not take a photo of that, but I mean, for those of you guys who did not shoot that course of fire, essentially the chair was facing downrange, and you got to sit on the chair, so your rear end had to be supported by the chair, and the idea was to shoot offhand, so no bipod, no bags, sling only. So tell us more about how you approached that one, Benjamin.
First, I saw that everyone had a kind of sling to get some more stability on. I didn't have that. It's still something I need to get. But I tried to get the most stable position I could. I had my left foot on my right leg. Like if I was to sit and get them across, then I put my elbow on the top of my in the middle of my left leg, which was up, perpendicular. And then in the morning I shot it, and by having my hand not at 90 degrees, and then someone told me to do it with my hand at 90 degrees as the rifle would support itself, and I would only have to balance it from my right hand and my right shoulder. And it really helped me on the second match in the afternoon, because I was much more stable. I didn't have to hold the weight of the rifle with my left hand and start shaking and stuff. But it's still it's still a prop I need to work on, and I haven't had much time to work on this one yet.
Fair enough. All the unsupported stages are typically harsh on people, but we'll talk about a maple seed. There are dates in the area. I think you might want to sign up for one of those, and you'd benefit from it.
Definitely.
Mr. John, how would you approach this?
Very similar to what you've shown there. Off the back of the chair, I would definitely run one knee up.
Okay.
And what I will say is, I think running double knee, you will find it easier if your natural point of aim is not perfect. But if you have one knee up and your natural point of aim is off, you'll get a fair bit of side-to-side movement.
Okay.
It's more crucial that your natural point of aim is perfect.
Very interesting. I'll be paying attention to that the next time we're into this situation. Very good. Rick?
I mean, pretty much it's
been said.
It's been said. Basically, it's, again, natural point of aim is something you'll learn. If you don't know what it is, go to a maple seed. It's basically providing a neutral position of the rifle along with your body so that you're naturally oriented. So you're not using your muscles to aim your rifle. And again, for me, it's always trying to, I'll try and sit on my heel if I can and have that one knee up, and then elbow on the thigh or the knee.
Yeah.
Just to get that up. That's pretty much it.
The
chair is awkward.
It's
just one of the most awkward props out there. So a perfectly balanced rifle obviously helps a ton. So you're not yo-yoing on it, but a good bag can offset a lot of the yo-yoing that you'll find. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I find that the chair is easier in the winter because it sinks a little. You can plant your feet. You've got the big boots you can sit on. So
that's the key. If you want to do well, shoot in the winter. Shoot the winter courses of fire.
We actually had that offhand stage last winter where after a few shooter, the chair had sunk a little bit, so it was, your knees were propped up a little bit. It was perfect. Very good. It was a very good position. Alrighty. If we move to the next one, the milk crates. The typical shooting position, or what you would expect, basically starting prone underneath the middle crate. This is where, and we saw this a lot at the last match where we had that, is if your height stack up too high, right? High rings, big scope, tall bipod attached to a couple of adapters to get it to attach to your ARCA. By the time it's all said and done, a lot of guys had a really hard time clearing, being able to see the target. In fact, there's a few new holes in that crate that weren't there before. So something to keep in mind when you're building your kit. Also, as a match director, I know that there's a rule where you're not supposed to touch the props. But at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, I would much rather you pull it back a little bit, which we ended up doing during that day, than taking the risk of pulling bullets through it and potentially, something could happen. So don't be shy to talk to your match director if something doesn't feel right. And also, on some occasions where we can find a good position, I ask people to shoot just to the side of it. It takes a little bit of the challenge out of it, but safety first. The next position off of those is basically the top of each of the crates, and I'm demonstrating the top and the side there. I actually like the sitting position that I have on the left photo there, and I essentially bring my left hand around and grab my arm along with the back of the rifle. So similar to the sort of hand position you would have if you were using a tripod. I find this very stable and quite comfortable on that particular position. And then off the top middle, that's again sort of the frog-ish crouch position. Get as low as you can. The lower you are to the ground, the more stable you're going to be. Let's go around. I don't know how much more there is to say about this one, but it's something we see all the time. Sometimes you have to stack them up also. So by the time you have all three stacked up, it's that uncomfortable height that's not completely erect, but it's too high to sit. So there's different strategies to that one. Let's start with Matt.
I think you have most of it covered. I mean, I will say the height of one milk crate is always pretty awkward because for some people, going in that pseudo prone position is really tough on the back, but it's too low to kind of do the leapfrog position. So, I mean, it depends on your physiology or your, flexibility and all that stuff. That's a barricade height that I really struggle with. So I just kind of, do whatever, just get it over with. I'll usually do like a pseudo prone.
Yeah.
And I sometimes won't even use a bag just to get the rifle a little bit lower. And then on the second milk crate, it's pretty standard in terms of its height. Just don't slam your barricade bag on top of the milk crate too hard.
Oh yes,
it'll come toppling down on you. So that
was a good blooper to your last video. We should have brought that in for the podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. John.
What I would typically do in a case like this where I can, I'll run my bipod. So I'll bring my bipod up. So I'm running basically the same height as two crates. And then I'll just flip over to a bag on the high crate. So I don't have to make a big height change.
Yeah. Makes sense. The bipod can be tricky.
If you're going to shoot underneath, then you have to be able to adjust your bipod out. So ideally, you're going from underneath, and then you come up, you jerk your bipod along, you can shoot off your low one and then move up to your high. But if you're going the other way, it takes a bit of time. But with practice, a bipod doesn't cost you a lot of time.
No, it's not bad at all.
You're making me want to set up a CRPS match with ORPS props, Thomas.
Welcome to Clarence Creek. I've been told it's a ORPS flavored CRPS.
That's going to be awesome. Yeah.
Very good. On that subject, for those listening, the dates have been changed. Check your inbox for the announcement.
Robert Gordon's got a comment about high prone can work off the low milk crate. I think that's what you were saying, Matt.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't even use a bag just so it's a little bit lower. You can use a pseudo prone position. Yeah.
Very good.
I will say though, using bipods can be risky because if a leg gets stuck in the milk crate, you're going to take the whole barricade with you when you go to transition.
Yes, or it will decide to fall in at the very worst moment, and now you're.
and that's exactly why those three props are great, because you do have to be careful. You can't manhandle it. You got to be, full situational awareness of any movement, and your prop's going to fall apart. And that's part of slow is smooth and smooth is slow.
Yes, absolutely. And for what it's worth, those crates lived in my car for quite a bit. First, they carry my stuff in and out of the range. Yeah. But second, they're a very versatile prop to carry around. I mean, for a while I basically had the ladder that you see in the background there in my car, and I would bring it in to the range with me. But you always get the looks, but it's a great prop because you start, pseudo prone and all the way to your tippy toes. So it basically exercises your entire range. You can go up. I mean, we've all done it. You go up strong side, you come down support side. There's a lot you can do. But you get people looking at you kind of funny when you bring out a ladder out of your car at the range. So eventually I started carrying only the three crates, and the combination of stacking them, setting them up, let's say like a couple meters apart, allows a lot of different configuration that are quite fun to play with. And also, once you're done shooting, they collect all your stuff, and you can get in and out of your car quickly. So a good prop to have, and they don't really cost anything. Just stop at a restaurant or a deli or
and ask for permission. I don't advocate people just stocking up while you're in the area.
Yeah, well, no, absolutely. I actually went in and offered to buy them, and the guy said, "Oh no, please just take them." So,
Nice.
All right, very good.
You might need new ones soon because there's a few holes in your crates now.
The purple one on top got hit a few times. Benjamin, what was your experience shooting those crates at the last match?
I'd say that in the morning it was really not that great, but at the afternoon match I learned from my mistakes in the morning, and then I've done pretty much what you did, except from the prone position with my bipod. Somehow it was still too high. Even if I tilt the MDT bipod, I tilt the legs forward and a bit further apart, so I can get lower. So I ended up removing the bipod using my bag in the front and just using my hand to adjust the rear. I don't recall good if the photo on the left, I think I did the same thing. I had my elbow down to on my knee for stability, and the difference I did in the third photo, the one on the right, I had my knee up because I'm quite small. So having my knee up, I was at the perfect height, and for me, and I felt I was a bit more stable than on both knees down.
Very interesting. So we each have slight variation, but essentially the principles are the same, right? Get low, get stable, and good natural point of aim is important. All right, the ladder stage. So on this one, like I was saying with the ladder, you go from pretty much prone all the way to your tippy toe, depending. This is my short 6-foot ladder. It's actually 5 feet. So reaching the top is usually not a problem for most. When doing the semi-prone there, I think the most important is to make sure that you're well planted on your elbows, and not digging in your feet, but nice and flat, relaxed feet helps get you nice and stable. I'm showing basically 2 ways to do it. I find that prone costs me a lot of time, so I don't use it that much anymore. I tend to do the frog, but if I had a light breakfast that day, I can still get my elbows all the way down, and I find that more comfortable and much faster. The ladder stage is usually a bit of a nemesis for me. I never do all that well with it, especially when it's combined with support side. Let's start with Rick this time.
Yeah, I think this one is you've got to practice this. So where people lose out is the time for them to settle into the positions as they change steps. So this is just one of those things you got to practice moving from step to step. Having those 16-inch barrels is a lot easier than having John's 28-inch 22, where you've got to retract that whole 28-inch barrel back. But for me, again, it's the only sweet spots for me are like the middle 3 positions. The top one isn't bad. Usually, depending on not all 6-foot ladders are 6 feet. So right. Sometimes I have to step on the bottom rung. Sometimes I'm on tippy toes. But yeah, so the bottom one's always the hardest one. But I think if you can get on your on your elbows and just shoot high, you'd be okay. But basically, it's just a high prone that you're shooting off of, and then the others are like your picture on the right side. That's typically how I end up shooting the second one. Maybe I think usually I'll go prone, and then just start building solid positions as you go up. and then you kind of just try to do the best you can with the upper two. So
very good. Matt, I know you have, I don't know if you're going to touch on it, but tell us more about how you approach the ladder.
You mean just the first few steps, or?
Well, I guess the whole thing. What do I have next? Yeah, I guess we'll go a little bit in deeper details after. But well, I guess I know that you had mentioned at some point that you like to bring the rifle up against one of the sides.
Oh yes, okay. Honestly, I don't do that much anymore. I found, depending on the situation, it helps. But if there's a lot of movement, it wastes time, and it doesn't give you that much benefit in terms of getting more stable. And it also depends on how the target is situated relative to the ladder, because a lot of the time, if the target isn't in the perfect spot, you're going to shoot through the rear leg of the ladder, which is no good, obviously. So I kind of abandoned that. But if you can kind of bring your rifle all the way up to the side and you don't mind scratching it a bit, it can gain you a bit of stability, but it's not something I actively try and do anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting because, we've been, I don't know, I can't count that fast, but how many course of fire has ORPS shot so far? We started in May, June of 2018. So that's, many. And almost every month we have at least a ladder stage. And despite all this, I still feel like I fine-tune my technique every time. And so it's really something that evolves over time.
Yeah.
Let's move to sort of the middle tier position here, where we can contrast the double knee versus using your elbow. John, what would be your approach here?
I would do like you've shown on the left again with my knee up. The only time that I'll ever do a double kneeling is when I'm actually sitting on my heels. Okay. As soon as I'm off my heels, no, that's not quite said true either. But I can talk more about that difference later too.
Yep, very well. I like the double knee, and that's the one that I use most of the time now, because I find I can load into the bag and the prop better that way. And when I load, it's because I'm square to the prop. It's nice and equal, right? It pushes me forward, and it doesn't tilt me either to the side. So very good. Benjamin.
I would say from my little experience that I have, I'd much prefer one knee up from every time it's possible, because I tried having either both knees on the ground, but I feel I still am a bit shaky. I know it's something I have to work on because sometimes I won't have any other options. But as soon as I can, I have one knee up, as I can have my elbow on my knee, which I find personally a bit more stable.
Very good. All right, and then I think there's not much to say about the very top of it. Do you guys have any tricks to that one? This is obviously the least stable of the different positions that you have at your disposal on the ladder.
I noticed that you put. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, John.
I noticed you put your bag sideways and set your rifle in the crotch. Yep. And if you're fighting for height, that's a way to get lower. But you're not fighting for height there, and I personally would find it more stable with a game changer to lay it on its side and use the side rather than its typical direction.
So you would have the V facing down, or literally to the side?
Sideways, to the side. And I would have it long ways with the rifle.
Very interesting. So maximize contact basically between the top shelf and the rifle.
Yeah, I actually shoot with a game changer. I would shoot more with it on its side than I do with its typical intended direction.
I'm going to have to try that. Very interesting.
So very similar to like a solo sack.
All right. And then we have, you know what, John, those are your photos. How about you take the lead on those?
Oh, which ones did you? Okay. Once again, I think this points out the basic fact there is only very few positions, and you'll see on the top right hand side, I'm on the leg there. That's one position where a sticky game changer can be beneficial, but because it won't slide, but it's typically not needed. So there would be like a low kneeling, and you'll get that exact same position off of a ladder. In the center of the crotch on that particular barricade, we're looking at a high kneeling, and then we're standing again. And once again, it's all the same three positions that we looked at, well, I guess 2 positions that we looked at previously with the ladder. And I'm not sure if you can see, you can see in all cases, I have my bag on its side, other than when I'm on the point of the tank trap. Then I use the mouth of the game changer, like you would typically think a game changer is used.
That's interesting. I'll have to try the side more. Very good. All right. Let's go to, well, before I change, Rick, Matt, any comments?
No, that's a standard. John's got the standard. I don't do the spread leg like he does on the top point.
Right.
I was actually going to touch on that. I think that's a very important thing. So like with many barricades, once you have the heights figured out, you kind of use the same techniques. But when it comes to those heights between kneeling and standing fully upright, I personally think it's very important to do what John's doing here, kind of lock out the legs, spread them wide as much as you can, and bend from the hips. Because a lot of shooters will try and use their knees to adjust the height. But if your knees are bent, it goes back to skeletal support, and you're using a lot of muscle to hold your body up, and you can't get steady that way. So really the only way you can do it is using that leg locked bend at the hips. It looks really awkward, but once you use that technique enough, it's a very solid shooting position. Yeah,
I think that's a valuable comment. And I remember actually at Palmerston match last year, I struggled because we had one of the position was off of the forward facing leg of the tank trap. So the one that sort of points downrange. Mm-hmm. And I ran to the one side and set myself up, only to realize that I couldn't really contortion myself to get sight on target. So then I should have, because I was so close to having the targets, I should have just stopped in the middle and sort of lean over. But I went completely all the way around, only to find the same problem on the other side. So I don't know if the match director was strategic, but basically I ended up having to lean and fire all 10 shots or 12. I can't remember how many it was. But having lost at least 15, 20 seconds running around this thing like a, silly chicken. So what was your, how would you guys approach the middle? I found this really uncomfortable, especially on a very long tank trap like the one.
Yeah, I think when it comes to barricades, tank traps can be a little bit trickier, only because you have to be careful of how the legs affect your shooting position. Like what you said, if you're on one leg but the other legs are blocking your movement or how you would naturally set up your body, you have to take that into account. And the other thing, which someone just commented asking about the forward leg bags, like the tactical udder and stuff on a tank trap. I think the other thing about a tank trap that's tricky is, since you're balancing your bag and rifle on the tips of the tank traps, you have to make sure that everything is settled before you drop your rifle on it, because a lot of people will drop bags on a tank trap when they usually wouldn't on other barricades, and it's just because you have to make sure your gear is settled properly before you get into position. And I think that's where the four-legged bags are maybe beneficial on a tank trap, because they naturally drape over like the point of a tank trap a little bit easier than a game changer. Right. I've never felt the need to shell out the money for one of those bags specifically for the tank trap, but I think a lot of people feel it's enough benefit to get one of those bags just for that.
Is that the fortune cookie or?
No, there's some bags that have 4. It's like a little octopus with 4 legs, basically. Yeah, so it drapes over those like tank trap tips a little bit better.
Yeah,
I think my kids have a teddy bear that could probably do the job. It's actually an octopus.
There you go. That's the octopod.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Benjamin, you haven't really met one of those yet.
No.
Sorry, go ahead, Rick. You were just going to say.
I was just going to ask John, on this stage, John, were people explicitly prevented from shooting prone off that leg? Or they could have shot prone?
I've never allowed someone to shoot off of a leg like what I'm showing in the top right hand, because I don't want people going down to prone.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I'd rather turn the bipod or the tank trap in such a way that people get tangled in the center, like what Thomas was describing there.
Yeah.
I would intentionally try to make it so that for a right hand and a left hand shooter, you're going to run into the same type of difficulty.
Yeah.
And say for a right hand shooter, you might be able to shoot it weak side and get an easier access to the target.
Yeah.
But then somewhere else, I'm going to do that to a left-hand shooter. If you follow what I'm
no.
saying.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now I know.
Yeah. Well, the other thing you can do in the center, because everything comes into a V, rather than laying your bag down and like the thin way, stand it up so that it lifts your rifle out of the crotch and up one of the legs. And the same idea is what I'm doing on the leg on the top right hand picture, but it would be stood on end in the crotch.
Right.
And that lifting you another 4 or 5 inches can significantly increase your arc of fire.
That's a $250 prop right now, John.
Yeah. It's equity.
Yeah, I can't afford. I can't afford to
at least.
Very good. All right, let's see what else you have for us. The rooftop. With another demonstration of a perfectly balanced rifle. Go ahead, John. I'm going to let you talk about the thought process here, and then
So the bottom left-hand side is how I would typically shoot it, if I can. I'm not a fan of a pump pillow. I've only ever used one twice competing, so I'm not a fan. But depending how flexible you are, that is a very stable way to shoot a rooftop. And if the rooftop is too steep, so you can't sit like I am doing, then that is the option you are going to be best using. Now, I wanted to note something with the comparison there. You will see on the right-hand side, I'm perfectly square. My legs are square, my hips are square, shoulders square with the rifle. And when you go to the left-hand side, obviously, my legs and hips are all over the place. But my shoulder are square to the rifle. And that is very important, especially if you start shooting center fire. Otherwise, your recoil will make a fool of you.
Very good. Now, one interesting things, and I saw this, I think in Petawawa at the very first CRPS I did, and might have seen it at NRS also at some point, but the rooftop facing the other way.
Yep.
And I've seen people get tangled up in tripods, and what's the secret?
Practice.
Let's start with you, Rick. Well, how do you approach? Do you do the tripod on the roof?
Usually I'll try and find a bag and just tuck it in and shoot off that. Again, the problem with the tripod is you've got to set it up on the clock, and if you don't have it right, and you're also dependent on the target position. So on the square ranges, it's probably okay, but if you think
there's
reverse rooftop on a Palmerston type match where you've got like 120 degrees of arc of fire, like
nice,
you're gonna have to move, and that tripod draped over you, I don't think is gonna be cost effective, So I think it's just a matter of building something around you, like a ruck or a pump pillow. Probably a ruck is better because it's got more options, and you can just cram stuff in it. I think in Kamloops last year we had somebody had a gym bag called I think it was either
nice.
Walter's Big Blue Bag. That's what we called it.
And that was not the guy with the bean bag, like the bean bag chair. No. Okay.
No. That's the infamous Corey Johnson, one bag to rule them all. Yeah. No. Just a good ruck will do it. Again, a tripod would work if you're shooting the typical straight down range, multiple targets, troop line. But anytime you've got any sort of, arc of fire, you're going to be struggling, I think, to shoot with a tripod. But
very well.
I guess it's just really just practice, figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a tough one to practice with because that's not something unless you have John's backyard, it's not something that carts all that easily to the range.
So what people do is you have old doors at home and a sawhorse. Just screw the doors onto the sawhorse and do that. You can practice your rooftop twice, or a folding table. Yeah, I don't know if those aren't probably strong enough anymore.
So I actually shared a photo of that because for the last match I had a spare foldable table, and I just wanted to see if it would support me well in the and so I tried it in the living room before the match, and my wife happens to walk by while I was testing this, and she didn't say anything, but her looks was like, "What are you doing to this table? Stop! Leave it alone." So, anywho,
just got to keep the marriage interesting, honey.
Matt, have you tried the let's call it the forward-facing roof?
Yeah, I shot the NRS match last year that had that.
So that's where I saw it.
Yeah, they stipulated you were allowed to use the tripod like any way you wanted to, and all the top shooters are using the tripod off the front of the rooftop, and it works well. You just need to know how to manipulate it properly, and if you know how to use a tripod like that, it's very efficient when the rooftop's facing forward, because essentially you minimize the height of the front two legs, and one leg sticks out behind you, and it doesn't matter the height of it because the shooting tripods you can pivot the leg kind of way out, so it's almost flush with the top of the tripod, and you can just kind of drape that over the back of the rooftop, and it works quite well.
We'll have to practice that a little.
Yeah. Again, like I wouldn't try to do that for my first time at a match as per usual, but all the top shooters were using the same method with the tripod. So
very well, and if I remember well, I mean the course of fire was spread from right to left. The entire field at the Robitaille Ranch was covered.
Yeah, that stage not so much. There was I can't remember two or three targets you had to hit, so there was a bit of panning, but it wasn't like a huge 100-degree arc or anything like that.
Very well.
Super wasn't a Gingrich match.
No.
Excellent. Benjamin, are any plans on adding a prop like this to your practice?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I'm actually taking notes on all the props and visually inspecting them, so I can make them and trailer them to my range.
Yeah,
then they'll stay there. But
you're a pretty light guy. I think you can get away with the folding table.
Yeah,
it was a little borderline for me. It was dangerous.
But I will. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ben.
Okay. I'm a big fan of having the exact same stuff I would be shooting a match on. So, and I have a bunch of scrap woods as we're doing renovation here. So I'll just grab a bit and put a sheet of plywood, and then do something that looks like this.
Perfect. Excellent. Let's move on to John's barricade, the PRS barricade. John, you want to let us know? I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but talk us through the thought process here.
Okay, on the top picture, once again, it's simply a high prone. There was also another picture somewhere where I had done that with a pump pillow, and that works quite well.
That one?
No, I did one with the prone, but maybe you didn't get it. That's okay. That so that there, I'm big fat guy, so high prone shots are easier for me probably, and for a lot of guys, that position there, pump pillow is well suited for doing. And then that is my typical the bottom picture. If I'm going to do a double kneeling, that is what I'll be doing. I'll be sitting on my heels, and I'll move my base closer to the prop or further away and bend at the waist for additional height rather than lifting my bum off my heels. I want to be sitting if I'm in that position.
I think it's worth mentioning here. So for ORPS, correct me if I'm wrong, Rick. Well, first of all, barricades is not something that's not part of the standard furniture set. So no concerns there. But when we talk about filling in the void, the pump pillow is accepted, but there is a size limit to bags, right? And
yeah, it's got to fit in the big ice cream container.
Okay. Very
so
well.
A pump pillow would not actually. Yeah, you could maybe stuff it in.
Just barely.
Small one.
Yeah.
A small one.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for CRPS, because we mentioned the rucksack earlier. I mean, we're talking pump pillow, but if you have a bag in which you keep all your gear and you've got a big void, if you can reach over and grab it, is that fair game in open? I know in production you're still limited to the one game.
Yep, absolutely.
Perfect. That's good to know.
Yep,
excellent.
It's a bag.
So we have the low position covered, and let's go to high.
What I was trying to show here is how, going back to that ladder thing again, all props are the same. Yeah. We have I'm sitting on my heel, one knee up. That is a very, very stable position. And you can often shoot groups that size that are similar to prone. That is probably my favorite position. Positional. So I try to default to that if at all possible, until I get too high that I'm starting to move. Then I would transition to the top right. That I would typically use it higher than that, but if you can't sit on your heel, you see how my knee is actually partway up my arm. It's not. Yeah. I don't have my elbow on top of my knee. It is also a very stable position. And then I did the spread leg in the bottom left to show these positions do overlap. So it's up to you to know
how low can you
where
go?
That is. Yeah. Right. So that I could maybe go 1 inch lower, but I'm maxed out there, and I'll start losing stability. And I can go kneeling much higher, so there is no reason for me to shoot that position standing. On the bottom right, I'm using a pump pillow there. I did that to demonstrate how you would use it. I would also in that position not use a pump pillow, but I would use my elbow on my knee. And then if you were to look really close on a picture showing me doing that very positioned without a pump pillow, my grip will slide down. It's not going to be up in my typical position on the chassis, but that does not matter as long as you can create a straight rearward pull on the trigger. It's just you'll have to put extra consciousness into your trigger pull so that you don't pull yourself off target. But if you're straining at all, then the pump pillow is very good for this position.
Very nice. I have a special request, and I don't know if you did it at the last match because I wasn't there, but the ports on your barricade, I think we should play with that at some point. Shooting with your scope canted would be something interesting that I don't think I've seen in another match yet.
It's challenging because
I bet.
No thanks. Let's pretend you didn't say that.
Not everyone understands it, and you just even though you tell people ahead of time, it's just like there's 10% of the people that'll do well, and everyone else is going to zero it.
Yeah, a little bit like the unknown distance, really. If you're not using
it's worse. It's worse because at least you have a fighting chance with unknown distance, but the can't is it's all calculations, right? It's all.
Are we allowed to bring a circular saw to cut a proper hole into the barricade before we shoot?
A proper hole. Come on. All right, very good.
Maybe we'll do that. We'll just get a whole bunch of tools and a whole bunch of flat-faced plywood.
It'll be like the IKEA stage.
Exactly. We'll take IKEA to the next level.
We don't have that kind of budget this year, though, boys.
Yeah.
It's too expensive. All right, Matt, talk us through this here. What are we looking at?
Yeah, again, like what John mentioned, a lot of the barricades are using the same principles, and the drum is no difference. You can see the bottom two pictures are basically how I would approach it. Bag, and you'll notice what I do, as John mentioned too, I put my bag on the side so the crotch is actually facing the camera there. I do that actually quite often when I can because it just maximizes the surface area. But what I was mentioning before, straight knees, bend at the hips on the left there, I think that's the only way to do it properly. If you're bending your knees to try and support your body, you're never going to get stable. And then the top picture there, I mentioned it earlier, but I used to try and minimize the footprint of my gun to fit on the top there, so you're kind of shooting with rear support and your bipod. It's not something I do often anymore, especially since if you have to manipulate the barrel and shoot on the various sides of it, it just takes more time to fiddle with your bipod. So I usually just use the bottom two pictures for a technique.
Interesting. Before we go there, I have a question. I've changed a little bit the way I didn't used to throw my hand over over my scope or hold basically the fore end of the rifle. Do you guys do that at all?
Yeah, you can't really see it in these pictures, but my left arm is always on the side supporting the chassis. I have like a little thumb ramp there.
Yeah.
I know some guys like to put it over the scope, like you mentioned. I've tried that before, but I just prefer on the side of my stalker chassis.
Interesting. Very interesting. Alrighty. I find you buy a lot of stability by doing this, and I used to just kind of rest my hand there, but now I actually put a little bit of pressure, and I use that to sort of sink into the bag such that the natural point of aim is when there's a little bit of pressure on that forend, and I've noticed a more consistent hit percentage. So, all right, sideway barrel.
I see a highly illegal use of equipment there.
So I do want to highlight the bottom right picture is there purely for jokes. I do not recommend that whatsoever. Just
the quad pod.
Yeah, it's the quad pod. Don't actually do that. It's ridiculous. But
where is it?
It is steady, but if you have to pan at all, it's a disaster.
I mean, here's the thing: you put a pair of sky pods on there, you got like $1,200 worth of bipods on your rifle.
Yeah,
I would like to do that on my B-22. I think it would be perfect.
So similar to what I said before, bag on the side again, actually there on the side of the barrel, and knee up supporting the arm. Like John mentioned before, my knee is actually above my elbow because it's too high. but it's still gaining me stability there. And my left arm is coming around the side to stabilize the front of the stock. And then the top right picture, you can use the bipod and rear bag thing again. But again, I don't do that very often anymore just because it takes too much time to set up.
Interesting. I've seen guys try to essentially wrestle the barrel, preventing it from moving, even going as far as throwing a bag in front of it, which has been addressed in the rules, so you can't do that anymore. But any concern about that for you guys? Let's start with Matt.
I would say if you're using the position on the left there, where you're kind of holding everything in place, it's not a huge issue because your left arm that's supporting your rifle is also pushing down on the barrel, so it can't really roll, even on a super smooth surface like that floor there.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good. Benjamin, how did your first experience shooting off of a barrel go? And remind me what we had in that.
It was the last slide.
So it was standing up like this, right?
Yeah. When I went in the morning, I saw a lot of people do the upright position. Well, the one in the top right, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And in the morning, I wasn't really stable. I was a bit shaky and stuff. And in the afternoon, it got better. I still did this position. I can't remember my body position. Some stress was involved, and I ended up not remembering. But I remember that this stage was one of the ones I liked the most. It was about the height that I practiced the most, so I ended up having a decent score. And I did not try the bag, but it's something that I'm trying to find. Well, I'm gonna find a barrel and get one for my homemade range as well. So
if you talk to Greg Susi, he might be able to hook you up.
All right, thanks.
Was that, Rick, the one where you made us do push-ups, burpees, by any chance? Yeah. People like that.
People always like that.
All right, very well. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, the long one. Yes, that's a good one.
This gets a lot of people. That's probably the worst evolution of the drum. I see Matt is illegally blocking the movement with his foot there.
I was actually going to mention that. I didn't mean to show that, but the drum movement is definitely the worst in the lengthwise position. And I did it in this picture just out of bad habit. But don't put your foot there because you'll get DQ'd. It really depends on the ranges, what they have on the ground. Like grass, if it cradles the barrel nicely, it's a lot nicer to shoot off of. But if it's like a smooth concrete surface, it just rolls all over. Snow is the best. Don't stick your foot under the barrel like that.
I remember last year, Rick, you had one of the course of fire where you basically your rear end had to be on the barrel, and we had some discussions about the definition of rear end, because belly button to me is off the rear end, but we had some interesting discussions around that one. All right, very good. And so this one is deceiving, essentially. It's you would go at it saying, hey, I've got a bench right in front of me, this is perfect. But because it's round, it's slick, I find that the bipod to me tends to slide, and I have a relatively budget-friendly bipod where if it's not very strong, so if I put any pressure down, the legs just kind of spread, and it's not very stable that way. All right, I think
this prop here, I would actually slide my bipod back, so my rifle is further forward, and I would do a double kneeling, and then I'd end up with an elbow on each side of the drum, and
so you'd be more square to your rifle, square to everything. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, because I'm too big to do some of the stuff like Matt can. My legs get in the way and everything else. So I have to do something different. And I find it's quite stable if I do that. Also, then the barrel doesn't roll around without me having to put a foot beside it either.
Yeah, that makes sense because then your elbows are basically supporting your rifle, but also controlling that 1 degree of freedom on the barrel. That's awesome. Very good. All right, I think this is it for that.
You had commented earlier about putting your hand on top of the scope, and that is a technique that I definitely do use. But I also do, like Matt had mentioned, about running my thumb on the side of the chassis. But I think the key thing there is to, if you're used to putting your hand on top of the scope, you don't naturally lock your arm straight.
Right.
And so when you start practicing running your thumb on the side of your chassis, you have to lock your arm straight. So you're reaching straight out, and then you're actually going to be resting your arm on the prop and supporting some of your body weight that way, and then your thumb is controlling the rifle. If you do not have the option of resting your arm there, then I would use, like you do, put my hand on top of the scope and press down.
This is a new one for me because shooting the B-22, there's not much of a lip, I guess, on the stock, so I was using the scope more. But I'm a little superstitious about touching my scope. Once it's zeroed, I don't lift my rifle with my scope anymore. I don't, So...
My scope is a handle for my rifle. I just...
Well, ever since I saw Kevin crack his base, I was like, ugh, I don't know if I want to do that. So anyway, but I upgraded this year to the CZ L. Is it LRP or LPR? LRP. And it has like a good inch on either side of the barrel, basically, where I can put my thumb and put some pressure. So I'm really enjoying that. But old habits die hard. I suppose I still every now and again rest my hand on the scope, despite the fact that it makes me cringe. So
well, there is nothing wrong with doing that, and it's definitely a technique to use, because there is no one thing that works for everything. And if you come across a barricade where putting too much of your body weight on it, the locking your arm out straight is not going to actually work as well.
Right.
And then bringing more of your weight back on you and using your hand on top of the scope tends to be more stable.
I think it's good to practice both, because I will use the scope hand on my scope method if the barricade impedes my arm from actually getting onto my chassis. Then I'll do the scope thing. Yeah.
Excellent.
Can I ask a question about these techniques?
Of course.
I'm used to I saw a lot of videos online, and they all use their hands on the scope, so that is the technique I started using. And after hearing you, I was wondering, because on the MTR, as of right now, I don't have a lot of place to put my thumb. And would it impact the precision or the repetitiveness if I touch the barrel while having my hand on the stock?
That's something I would say test it.
Right.
Just get out there and try both. I mean, in theory, yes, but I would counteract that by the fact that you're much closer to where the barrel meets the action and all this stuff. I mean, the pressure of your thumb on there is probably not a whole lot, but there's also a whole thing about free floating your barrel, so why touch it?
Right.
So test it, see what works for you. I know I was shooting with Tony Norman this afternoon, and he has a little piece of sheet metal right above, and I'm not talking about his B-22, but even on his semi.
The beer can?
Yeah, it looks a little classy. It's no longer Budweiser, but he's got, let's call it a shroud there that he can rest his hand on.
Yeah, there you go.
A mirage shield.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we love you, Tony.
To the question about putting your thumb on the barrel, you will not be putting enough force on it to change your point of impact unless there's something funny with your rifle and something's not tight. If you're putting a lot of force down, yes, you can. But because you're shooting positional, the little bit of force that you will be putting down with your thumb, you will not be able to see that difference.
All right.
So I would not worry about it. It's hard on hard contact that is the issue. And if your thumbs are like mine, they're quite soft.
Now, if you're using, if you're using that other hand to help you get on target, that's a completely different story, though.
Yes.
Right. If you're just resting, that's one thing. But if you're using it to aim your rifle, that's something else altogether different. Because then you're actively manipulating the direction of fire with that offhand.
Go and shoot some targets, and do one with your thumb on the barrel and one with it off. Like I'm saying using your left hand to apply pressure down on the rifle.
Yeah, right. Do that experiment on paper so you can actually see how it. You know, you might start stringing horizontally, depending on how much pressure you're putting in. You know. So.
Yeah.
But you can also get that horizontal if you're doing it on your chassis and you're pushing sideways. You have to be careful that you're pushing down, because if you have sideways pressure, the tiny recoil you have will actually cause you to shift. And you will end up tending to, in my case, I would tend to throw bullets to the right.
Right. I'll try that, and I'll try to document it for people to actually see and get to know a bit more about it. Yeah.
Awesome. We love that.
You should video yourself and then post it on the group.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah.
You'll get comments.
Yeah.
I'm not that brave.
There's always going to be people that don't like things or think it's all wrong or whatever. And
but what you do
sometimes you have to just run with what works.
You look them up on the leaderboard, and if they're above you, you listen to them. If they're below you, you don't listen to them.
Right.
Well, you know, the problem with the internet is everyone's an expert in whatever field they're talking about, right? So
yeah. Well, look at us. Hello.
Right.
This is the perfect case. But at least we have fun.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All we're talking about is what works for us. It might you might have your results may vary.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you.
And that's a very important thing to bring up, Rick, because some positions simply don't work for some body types.
Yep.
If you got a big stomach hanging out front like I do, well, you just can't get down like Yannick does. It's not going to happen.
No.
So that I have to go to a double kneeling. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to work with what your body type is.
Yeah.
Don't feel ashamed.
It's practice.
Mm-hmm.
A good practice, structured practice is really the only way to get better. If all you do is just shoot matches, you're not going to see improvement unless you practice, right? That's the thing.
So when I first started in ORPS, I went out and tried to get as many props as I could. So I bought milk crates. That barrel I have in my basement is because I bought that specifically to practice ORPS, and obviously I have a ladder and things like that. But like what Rick is saying, just practice, see what works, and you'll find, again, like what we've been saying all night, you can use the same techniques on different barricades just based on whatever height it is, right? It's just kind of the stability that changes and the shape of it. And I just recently got a tank trap bracket, so I can practice tank trap now too. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
You can have $1 million in your basement.
Now you just might need to start saving up to buy the wood.
yeah, exactly. It's so expensive.
So touching on something I mentioned earlier, right? Like when I first started practicing, I would bring the ladder to the range because it's got all these heights and you can go up and down and all this. Then the milk crates, because it was convenient, it took less space into my sedan than the ladder. And now, just recently, I bought the tripod, which I haven't quite used to shoot much, but I use it as a infinitely adjustable prop for height. Basically, spread the legs, get it to lay a few targets down range, and then select a random height and try to shoot from it. See how that goes, and then run another stage with a different height. So it is now my prop of choice that I bring to the range, and plus somebody, nobody asks questions about your tripod other than which one did you get, and then I'm like, I don't know, I got what Kevin got. It's on Amazon, but I find it a very useful tool, and that's kind of how my training routine has evolved. I'm basically down to sometimes a couple of targets and the tripod, which I bring to the range, and we have 200 yards to work with. But more often than not, now it's the tripod and the wind teacher. I find that unless it's dead still like it was today, the wind teacher is very nice because it gives you some valuable feedback. Alrighty, Rick.
That's it.
Want to close us out?
I will do that. Thanks, guys. That was awesome. Benjamin, merci beaucoup d'être ici avec nous.
I loved it. Yeah.
Good. Awesome. We'll make sure we have you back again. So again, this podcast brought to you by Tesro.ca for all your shooting needs. If you are looking for anything that you don't see on the website, send them an email. The contact info is on the website, Tesro.ca. Again, check out their reloading supplies in addition to being the sponsor of choice for CZ Firearms, Tesro.ca. Thank you again to my esteemed colleagues for your nuggets of wisdom that you've been gleaning over the past few years. Appreciate you guys sharing with everyone. To our listeners, thank you very much for all your support, all you participants. I know this year is kind of a bumpy year for scheduling, but we do appreciate the support. Regardless of when we hold the matches, it's always a great time seeing you guys there. Always a few laughs. Again, I just go there for the laughs. I don't even look at my score anymore. So we look forward to the season resuming. Shout-outs. I mean, our awesome sponsors who continue to surprise me with their generosity and support of the series and our match rifle loaner program. And to all you potential mentors, I thank you in advance for helping the next generation of competitive shooters get up to speed safely with more support than you guys got when you guys started, when everything was brand new. So actually, I was just looking at the first Owen Sound match. The winner scored a 43 that day, and that was Brian Bolivar in the middle of we had a snowstorm in the middle. So yeah, that was April 2018. Yeah,
crazy.
3 years ago. Yeah, crazy stuff. So that's it for me. Benjamin, any shout outs or thank yous to anybody out there?
I'd go with thank you to Thomas to have helped me during my ORPS match.
Very welcome.
And everyone else everyone on the Facebook group where I can get info from. And even though I'm not as knowledgeable as everyone, I try to help people and people that help ask questions so they can get better. And thanks to you for having me on the podcast. And that's about it.
Thanks. Matt, any shout-outs?
The first thing that comes to mind is Graybirch Solutions, only because they came out with a really cool threaded barrel and receiver combination for the 1022. It's called their Fusion. So instead of using the V block, which is one of the downsides of the 1022 system, they're coming out with a threaded barrel, which I think is pretty sweet.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So now
is that shipping? Is that shipping already?
No, it's still in production right now.
Okay, nice.
I wish it was available when I bought mine. So cleaning port, screw-on barrel, and maybe a stud at the back to have a bit more anchoring into the action.
So the new chassis they're coming out with, the Foundation, has a rear screw for that.
Ooh, amazing. Nice.
Yeah. And your cleaning port's just a 1/4-inch drill bit away from being a reality, man.
Yeah.
All of my 1022s have that.
Oh yeah,
just drill it.
Yeah,
dead
exactly.
center. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, and actually, go ahead.
I'll just do it for you next time when you're not looking.
Just bring a hand drill and just go straight.
Just do it right.
Don't even take the bolt out. Just go.
Yeah, it'll clean itself out after you fire a mag full.
Yeah, you'll have to get it out of Avery's hand or my son's hand first, because that's
there you go.
right now. This is the youth rifle. They both enjoy it a lot.
Awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
I won the foundation chassis at the finals, and they just sent the shipping notification. So fingers crossed it gets here.
Oh, nice.
It'll take just a couple days. It's quick.
Yeah. So did you orchestrate all these COVID delays so you could shoot it at the first X-22 match?
No, I would not. That's not worth it at all. I'll tell you that much.
No.
Yeah, but I am interested to see the chassis in person. It'll be pretty sweet.
Yeah, it should be pretty good. Yeah, I can't wait. Thomas, any shout outs for you?
Quick shout out to my crew in North Carolina. They let me know that they were going to be listening tonight. So
nice.
Shout out to you guys.
John G, any shout outs for you?
Yes, to all the new shooters who are thinking and pondering. Can we do this? Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
It's very simple. It's basic. Don't get all worried about how complex it is. There's 3 positions. Come and do it. You can.
Yeah. That's awesome. Good advice. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Again, another great podcast. Appreciate your time and your contribution. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody. And we'll see you on the firing line. Take it easy.
Have a good night.